This is the Brussels World's Fair, an international exposition representing the best from every country. This is the United States Pavilion, acclaimed as the best pavilion in this thrilling World's Fair, the cultural achievement of a free democracy. On May 1st, 1958, the United States Department of State selected an outstanding American classic to open the pavilion at the Brussels World's Fair, Rodgers and Hammerstein's South Pacific, the greatest show in Todd A.O. It was the most beloved play from the night it opened in New York City on April 7th, 1949. Since then, South Pacific has enchanted the world. Now, 9 years later, South Pacific as a film in Todd A.O. opens at the Brussels Fair to new fame, new glory, a world of new friends. Because of its spectacular qualities, its beauty and warmth, the New York Daily News describes South Pacific. It promises to entertain untold millions throughout the world. My name is Arnold Michaelis. I, too, have seen South Pacific in Todd A.O. more than once. As Hedda Hopper wrote, it's the most colorful show she's ever seen. To this, I'd like to add, you've never really seen South Pacific until you've seen the movie. Luella Parsons was inspired by similar feelings when she described South Pacific in her column as a great big spectacle and will do a great big business. She finishes with this statement: "This is the type of story all people will like." To bring you South Pacific, the producers searched an endless blue ocean. They found a green jewel of an island, caressed by white-capped waves. It was the island of Kauai. This paradise is about to undergo a transformation. A little magic, and the island will become the locale for the filming of Rodgers and Hammerstein's South Pacific. What you're about to see are scenes behind the scenes in adapting two great love stories into a great motion picture, South Pacific, which the New York Times says is more real than it could ever be made on the stage. Tons of cameras and equipment came to Kauai at the beginning of this $7 million production. This green jungle island is miraculously changed into a movie set. The logistics of this undertaking required the hauling of all equipment through knee-deep mud. James Michener's Tales of the South Pacific, now a literary classic, was the guide in creating sets that had the authenticity of the original. Like the island of Kauai, Mitzi Gaynor, who was chosen for the coveted role of Nellie Forbush, also must undergo a change. Under the watchful eyes of producer Buddy Adler and director Joshua Logan, Mitzi has her hair cropped to fit the role of the pert army nurse, which she so beautifully portrays. Is that me, she wonders? On location, out at the island, the short haircut comes in mighty handy. Rossano Brazzi, the internationally famous actor, portrays the French planter Emile de Bec, the role originally created by the immortal Ezio Pinza. This is director Joshua Logan, sitting with Oscar Hammerstein II, Rossano Brazzi, and Mitzi Gaynor. Mr. Logan directed and Mr. Hammerstein wrote the play of South Pacific. Then Mr. Hammerstein and Richard Rodgers wrote the songs which you heard in the play, and now hear in greater wonder and beauty in the Todd A.O. version. And here's the lovely new discovery, France Nguyen, who is the wistful Liat. John Kerr portrays Lieutenant Cable. On the left, Broadway's Juanita Hall recreates Bloody Mary. The stage of production. The signposts are raised. Last-minute preparations. Joshua Logan is eager to get started. Instead of a confining stage, he has a whole island to work with. Instead of the usual camera equipment, he has the latest in new techniques, the Todd A.O. camera, and the man behind the camera is the world's greatest cameraman, Leon Shamroy. With a special wide-angle, bug-eye lens, the Todd A.O. camera can sweep and record all that the naked eye can see. To do this, the Todd A.O. camera uses a negative 70mm film, twice as wide as the standard 35mm film. Now, this visual reality is augmented by the famous Todd A.O. 6-channel hi-fi stereophonic sound system. In bringing South Pacific to the huge Todd AO curved screen, the producers have used a variety of color filters in photographing in Technicolor the major musical scenes, so that the scenes are bathed in a multitude of moody and misty hues. The net result is best described by Sheila Graham in her column. I was dazzled by the wonderful color effects. The gorgeous photography is worth the price of admission alone. When the motion picture critic of the New York Times reviewed South Pacific, he wrote in his review, "It's as fine a panorama as you'll ever want to see, exquisitely sharp in detail and aesthetically intense." Now, friends, it's altogether impossible for me to describe to you the real beauty and true effects of South Pacific from this screen. It's mechanically impossible. Such an experience you'll only realize when you see Rodgers and Hammerstein's South Pacific in Todd AO. But let's get back to our story. In this revolutionary and amazing process, Rodgers and Hammerstein's Oklahoma was the first motion picture produced in Todd AO. Here is Richard Rodgers and Oscar Hammerstein II receiving the accolade of the Great White Way. Following Oklahoma came Mike Todd's Around the World in 80 Days. And now, the greatest show in Todd AO, Rodgers and Hammerstein's South Pacific. And from the enchanting island of South Pacific, we are now in Times Square in New York City at the Criterion Theater, where Rodgers and Hammerstein's South Pacific in Todd AO had its world premiere on March 19, 1958. Television's outstanding celebrity and columnist, Ed Sullivan, is acting as master of ceremonies. After he saw South Pacific, Ed Sullivan remarked, "I had one of the best times of my life." And Parents Magazine, in granting South Pacific the Special Merit Award, did so because the editor of the magazine felt that South Pacific is entertainment for the whole world. In the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., national and international leaders of the world attended the opening of Rodgers and Hammerstein's South Pacific in Todd AO. Likewise, in Hollywood, the greatest stars of filmdom, the most important producers, writers, directors, and others who make up the genius of motion picture art, they all came, they saw, they became convinced of this simple fact. Never in the history of entertainment have so many talented people worked together to produce one of the greatest motion pictures of all time, Rodgers and Hammerstein's South Pacific in Todd AO. It is this kind of feeling that inspired the motion picture critic of Good Housekeeping magazine to exclaim, "It's wonderful, simply wonderful." Our advice to you is, do your ticket shopping early. Make it a gala affair. You'll truly have an enchanted evening. Friends, take the advice of Good Housekeeping. Buy your tickets now, for yourself, your loved ones, and your friends. Make up a party and visit South Pacific. The management of this theater will be delighted to assist you in securing choice seats for this most honored show in all the world, the perfect show, Rodgers and Hammerstein's South Pacific, now in Todd AO.